Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Orange Power Podcast. And we are featuring Coach Jacie Hoyt and excited to talk some Cowgirl basketball. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well.
You know, last time we talked to you, we talked about time management and game man, all of those sorts of things. Let me ask you this. How good are you right now with holiday management?
I'm trying to balance it. It's a lot, and it's a lot to, keep in mind also that our players have finals on top of all the holiday excitement. So I'm doing okay. Luckily for me, my family's life revolves around basketball, so we really don't do a lot.
There is an understanding, right? I mean, because I got to admit, I'm failing at that right now. So let's talk about some other things. Coach, it's kind of fun, again, to sit down and talk and just talk about expectations and talk about team goals within that locker room that you guys talk about. Let's start with your offensive output for this team, roughly 80 points a ball game. Is that where you want to be? Is that a comfort level? I mean, obviously, again, if you can get to 100, you want 100. But is that a really good mark? Do you kind of have a feel for, okay, this is what I expect our team to hit every year?
To be honest, I don't. I'm still kind of learning what that looks like, right, with a new team at a new level. So we have goals within just winning. So we more so focus on, for example, having a positive assist to turnover ratio. Yeah. And we know that if we're doing a good job in that area, then the points are going to come. And so it's kind of just breaking it down a little bit smaller. We have certain percentages that we want to meet, and then the rest takes care of itself.
So let's talk about the turnover part of it. You guys are under 12 per ball game. I mean, that's right at 11, just over 11. That's a pretty good job of valuing the basketball.
Yeah, no, they do a great job. And I think a lot of it is just the fact that we have multiple ball handlers on the floor at all times. And that is something that is necessary for us to play the speed and tempo that we want, right? So when we rebound, we can just push and run, and multiple people can bring it up the floor. But, you got Taryn out there who's played a lot of minutes at a point guard spot. Mimi, same thing. Lexi's comfortable bringing it up. Lior's comfortable. So when you have that, it's kind of nice.
Well, and we talk about, the emphasis may seem to be on the offensive end. It's not. There's a defensive emphasis and 7.2 steals per game. I mean, that's forcing, the teams are going to throw the ball away, and it's going to be an unforced error. A steal is directly contributed to the defensive effort, right? And so 7, obviously a good number.
Yeah, we feel good about that. We're still learning who we want to be on defense, and I think that was maybe the most challenging thing because everyone wants to play offense, right? Mm-hmm. So when they come here and they're like, oh, we get to play fast and score and shoot, yeah, I'm in. Defense was a little bit different, and I really learned a lot about just the different styles that all the players had, come from and that they were used to playing. And so I would say that from a learning curve standpoint, that's where this team has, taken the most time probably just because their habits are their habits and they're coming from different backgrounds. But they're getting it figured out.
Yeah, and again, but it goes back to that communication we've talked about, which has been so good for your team, even though there's so many new faces. All right, so let me throw a couple of other just rapid numbers at you. They seem really good to me, but you, again, still trying to figure it out, but may have expectations. 45% shooting from the field. For a team that doesn't dump the ball inside and score in the block all night long, you guys are shooting a lot of outside shots. 45% seems really good.
I'll take that any day of any year of my coaching career for the rest of my coaching career. I feel really good about that.
37% beyond the arc.
Same. For as many threes as we take, I feel really good about that number.
And then, not where you will want it, I'm sure, but free throw percentage is 64%. Again, you've got some bigs that are getting to the line, and they're never typically, although I say that, typically the bigs don't shoot the free throw as well. Trinity Jackson's got the prettiest shot from the free throw line as maybe anybody. But so that's a number I'm sure you probably want to see a little better.
That's a number that we need to improve on, and we've kind of been up and down with that. Our first game, I think it was, I don't know that we missed a free throw or maybe missed one.
Right.
And then the tricky thing about free throws is it can get mental, and you start questioning yourself when you go to the line, and that's what we're trying to avoid right now. And our kids have done a great job of, even this week with it being an off week, getting in the gym and working on those free throws. So we definitely need to get that number up.
Each week, it's kind of fun. We've talked, only hadn't done a couple of these shows, but it just kind of want to talk about some of the young ladies. I think last time we talked a lot about Lior. I want to talk about Mimi for just a minute, Coach. Again, how do you stack up against your peers? Number 7 in the Big 12 scoring, top 10 assist, number 5 in field goal percentage, number 5 in threes per game, number 2 in 3 percentage. She is, we watch, and I see her numbers, but I don't always crunch the numbers to see where she stands. When you start looking at it in that perspective, now I understand why I like watching her play so much. She is a complete player.
Well, that's the first time I've heard those numbers. Honestly, I am not a big numbers person. I probably drive, excuse me, I probably drive my assistants crazy because, they want to talk stats and analytics, and I'm like, yeah, I just want to win. I coach off gut and feel, but there is something to be said about those numbers, and you're right, she's a complete player, and it's been fun for me, being on this journey with her before we got here, just seeing her game evolve, because that hasn't always been the case, but man, she's playing really well right now, and just continues to mature.
So let's talk about the next one. We've talked about it last week on the show. Obviously, there's an emphasis on this UNLV game for a lot of reasons. But let's talk about this team a little bit. Coach, they come in, first off, and you've told us about this, they've returned a lot of players from last year, a 2022 NCAA tournament team. They're 9-1. Now, I would say, at the risk of creating bulletin board material, their schedule doesn't look like your schedule. I don't know that they played necessarily the same caliber of teams, but they are 9-1. And the irony is they almost have exact same offensive output and the same defensive numbers as well. Very similar stat-wise. Again, I know you're not a number person, but from that perspective, seems like two pretty balanced teams. Yeah,
I'm so excited for the challenge, and something that we talk every single game about, and you can see our rebounding board up here. We want to win the war on the boards, and they are dead even with us. I think we both average 41 rebounds a game, and so that's where I'm excited, just to get up against a great team and kind of see where we're at, especially going into conference. I think these games are so important.
Coach, they beat ORU 100-84. You beat ORU 103-66. And again, they allowed a few more points, but the offensive production, it's the only common opponent. And again, that means nothing, but it is kind of fun to look at to see that common opponent, and maybe a couple of similar styles of basketball getting ready to go head to head.
Very similar. They play through the post a lot. They've got a great post player that we're going to have to really scheme for, just because we haven't seen a post player quite of her caliber up to this point. So it's similar in terms of getting up and down, and then in half court it does look a little bit different.
You hit my next question there a little bit. They've got a young lady by the name of Desiree Young, who's their center leading scorer. Obayazor is their second leading scorer. She's a forward, which means their front court is a big part of what they do, which is different. We've been playing a lot of guard heavy teams. Right. So how do you handle that matchup differently?
Yeah, I think we have to do some things different defensively, whether that's doubling the post, mixing up our defense a little bit more, going back and forth between man and zone. And I like to do that anyway. We just, what I said earlier, we needed to get our base defense in. And so I felt like I really wanted to be intentional about that. But now we're kind of getting to that point where we can be a little bit more creative and mix it up and keep teams off their rhythm. Well,
and we've mentioned this before, but again, there's a little bit of a mini bedlam in this, right? They've got some Oklahoma connections, and I think they're excited about coming to Gallagher-Iba Arena, program that's trying to prove itself to go win at a Power 5 school on the road. A lot of emphasis probably by both programs. This is a big game for the momentum going into Big 12 right now.
It is a huge game. I believe that they're good enough to win their conference again, and will be in the NCAA tournament again. That's the respect that I have for this team. And so to me, this is a resume builder. This is something that in March the committee is going to be able to look at and see the outcome of this game for either team. So it is a huge game for us in terms of figuring out, where we land, wanting momentum. Where we stand, wanting that momentum going into conference, and then just, feeling like it's going to pay off late.
And I know you don't look ahead, so we're not going to spend time talking about it, but you've got this one, then Air Force at 11 o'clock game next Tuesday, and that's it before conference. And then, 11-day stretch, but then it's Kansas time. So what a great time, as we said, to build that momentum, get that confidence really good. because this Kansas team, just named the National Team of the Year, they're playing really well. So to build up to that, these next 2 games are really important.
It is important. KU's playing really well and coming off a great week. And I love the fact that we get to open up with them just to see right from the start, where we stack up in the conference against one of the best teams currently. So it's going to be good. But, of course, got to take care of business now.
Absolutely. And that starts with not only your team and this game, but obviously would love to have a great fan base there. Take a little Christmas shopping break and come enjoy some Cowgirl basketball, right?
Well, our fans, oh my gosh, they've just been so awesome. And, when we come back in here in the locker room after the games, we talk about that. We talk about, how fun it was and just what we're building and how we want to build it. And, the momentum and energy that they give us. Oh my gosh, we just feed off of it. And we want to keep building it though. But our players can feel it. And I think that it gives them validation that, what we do matters and people are paying attention. And I feel like our attendance has grown each game. And I love our fan base because they're so into it. They understand the game. They're just awesome. So we have a good thing going, but this game, they definitely, I feel like, can be a difference maker.
Let's get some people in there on Sunday. Coach, best of luck. Always enjoy the time, and we'll talk to you again next time.
Thank you.
That's going to wrap up the Orange Power Podcast. We'll see you guys Sunday inside Gallagher Iba Arena when the Cowgirls welcome in UNLV, 3 o'clock inside GIA. Until then, for Coach Jacie Hoyt, I'm Casey Kendrick. We'll see you next time on the Orange Power Podcast.